Hi gang, and welcome to another episode of Mr. Ed Makes, and in this episode I'll be doing another acrylic silicone PVA pour. So in a previous video, I'll link here in an info card and in the description, I experimented pretty much for the first time how to do the cell pouring, and in this turn of experimenting I wanted to do more marbling and smaller cells, and I also wanted to set this in glass. So I got a cheap pipe or a cookie sheet you can get for $1, the pound store, dollar store, and some cups, and I got some medium grade acrylics that come in a tube, and I squeezed those out into a cup, and I'm adding equal parts white glue. You can use glue all, which would be a lot stronger, but I'm using just like a school glue, an all-purpose, and mixing that together until I get something that's about the consistency of crepe batter. When you start out with the acrylics, it's about the consistency of pudding, and you want it to flow, so you need it to pretty much be runny but not drippy. You want it to run in like a strand. So that's kind of the consistency you want to go for. If it's too runny, it's all going to pour off. If it's not runny enough, then the colors aren't going to move through their layers, and you're not going to get the cells and stuff. So once I get that all really nicely blended and mixed up here, I put down my glass, and now I need to put something tacky on there so that the paint doesn't just run off, which kind of happened. So I put down some paint and dried it a little bit with the heat gun, and got ready for my pour. So I'm assembled my paints in a cup, and I put white on the bottom, because white's usually the heaviest paint because of how it's made. So if you put it on the bottom and then you tip the cup upside down, the white's going to start out on top, and it's just going to sink through, and this is where you get kind of the cells that happen. And when you hit that with a heat gun, there's an interaction with the PVA that creates a skin on the surface, and a hydrophilic action with the silicone that prevents that PVA from sticking to certain things. So that's how the cells and the marbling gets created, and this is how the paint is prevented from really blending. Now when you drag or kind of scrape that paint over, it'll get dirty if you have done like a pour that I've done. If you're just pouring out like a couple colors and you want to drag them over, that way is the best kind of utilization of that technique. Otherwise I would just try to avoid scraping the paint if you do a tip over dirty pour like I've done. So I hit it a little bit to get some cells to form and see what's going on here, what my distribution of silicone and stuff is, because that's really what's creating a lot of this dysfunction in how things are blending. That silicone is getting in the way of stuff, and you want to be. I added, I think, 3 drops and stirred it just a very little bit. I don't want to integrate that silicone too much. I want it to flow pretty much in pools and rivers, because that's how you get the cells, that's how you get the marbling. Typically when you hit it with the heat gun, it's just a light blast. You don't want to cook the surface and create a skin. But I am sealing this in glass, so I need to get that to set, but I still need it to migrate, and I wanted to push that paint around without it getting dirty, so I used the heat from that gun to really marble things and mix them around in an interesting way. And because the surface is starting to dry too quickly, I was afraid it would crack, so I hit it with a little bit of water just to slow down that drying so that it won't crack before I can set the glass on top. So it's kind of like a delicate balance. I want the paint to set, but I want it to still have some movement. I don't want it to crack. You're balancing back and forth between you're like playing a ping pong game with yourself. So I put the glass on top, and then something really interesting happens. There is again the contradictory action of the water wanting to adhere to the glass and the silicone wanting to resist that water, and it's wanting to adhere to the glass as well. And then there's uneven surfaces and air pockets, and it turned out so beautifully that I think I'm just going to keep doing this technique and sealing this in glass. But I have to let this set for a couple weeks and see how it goes, because I'm not sure how this work will mature as it dries, if it does. So give this one a try. Otherwise you can just leave the top layer off. set it really level, cover it, and over the next few days it will dry, and then you can seal it with some acrylic. You can see there's air pockets in there, and it really created this dimension, but when I was framing it, the glass slid and pretty much filled those in. So in the future I'm going to try to be more careful and exploit that texture, and maybe do a pour on top of one of these and have 3 layers. So stick around for that. Hit subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be sure to hit those. If you have, thanks so much. Comment, ask some questions. I'll be sure to answer those. Hit a like if you like this video. And until next time, as always, you guys, take care.